Welcome in. My name is Amber. For any of you that might be new, welcome to oohaahcrochet. My channel name is named after my family, and we like to say ooh-ah when we give each other hugs. The correct spelling of that, I don't know. I just went with ooh-ah because that's what it sounded like. It might be more ooh-ah, like maybe a German more sounding, but anyway, that's what it is. So from me to you, I always say hugs. If I'm texting somebody, I always put hugs. That's what we like to do in our family, is give great big bear hugs. So today I'm going to crochet and try to talk. Today is January 17th. It's just after midnight. It's 12:30-ish. And today was the day that my dad passed away last year. And I apologize if you can hear the dishwasher. We can only run the dishwasher or the wash machine at a time. We cannot run both. So time is of an essence as far as water and what we can run. And with 6 people, we've got a lot of dishes and a lot of laundry. Anyway, today's vlog is going to be about my dad. And like I said, I'm going to crochet this bee here while we're talking. And I'm going to try because I'm hoping it'll keep me well adjusted. Maybe that's the word. Maybe it'll keep me grounded. That's my hopes. So I tell you guys a lot. There are still some things I don't mention. I mean, I try not to tell you guys everything, but a lot of me is just bleh. Just kind of spills right out. So anyway, we'll start with Dad, and we'll see how far we get. But my dad was the first. He was the oldest. He has 2 other siblings, and then he had a step brother, or an adopted brother. My grandparents had foster kids, but they didn't have foster kids until after my dad was out of the house. And my dad had a choice to go to college. He tried it, and then he joined the service. So my dad was in the latter part of Vietnam. He was on the USS Kitty Hawk, and he served for, I believe it was 3.5 years. It was the 4-year term. He was in from, I believe it was 69 to 73, somewhere around there. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Hey, I did it. He was stationed in San Diego, California, and I believe so. Growing up in South Dakota and then moving to California, I mean, we currently have 224,000 people in Sioux Falls. The whole entire state is only about 750,000 people. We don't have that many people. So moving to somewhere like California is a huge step. He was stationed in Hong Kong. He did cross the equator. He served but never talked about it. He did not talk about it or share it with us until, well, it was a couple different times when it got mentioned when I was a kid. One of them was a phone call that was from California, and I was probably, I don't know, maybe 10. And there was a phone call asking for Michael Barrett and stating that they had a box. And I said, well, I don't know that, I don't think it's my dad, but there is another Michael Barrett in town. And there was a Michael Lee Barrett, 20 years younger than my dad, but no relation. And the only reason we knew that is because the cops had shown up at our door to look for him. Well, it wasn't my dad. So anyway, Dad briefly mentioned that he was in the service, and that was the end of that conversation. He was very upset because it could have been the box that had his Bible in it, that had his stuff from California, that had some other personal items. He wasn't upset with me, but you could tell that he was upset because he had to leave California in somewhat of a hurry, I guess. Long story short, long story long, I don't know. My dad was married before my mother, and I didn't know that until I was way older. I guess that's their anyway, he got divorced and married my mom. Met my mom when she was in high school. He actually lived in my grandparents' house. Every one of my generation lived in the same house at one point or time in my family, which is crazy to even think about. So from me up, from my cousin Becky to my aunts and uncles, they all lived in this house at one point in time. But anyway, Dad rented this house, and he met my mother through her sister, which she was getting married to my uncle, which is my dad's brother. So if you follow along with that, brothers married sisters. Okay? But that's how they met. And it took them 4 years before they actually got married. Because my grandmother said, you have to finish college or school before you could get married. So anyway, Mom was real young. Her dad had passed away when she was 16 of a massive heart attack. So her mother was raising 4 kids. Well, my aunt had moved out by that time, but 3 kids by herself. Yeah, it was an interesting time. Let me see. I've learned a lot about it in the last year or so, talking with my mom. And especially since my grandmother's passed away this year too, or last year, I guess. So anyway, so Mom and Dad got married. My dad knew my mom was pregnant with me right away. My mom was 99 pounds soaking wet when they got married, and by the time she was 102 pounds, he knew she was pregnant. It didn't take long, and 2.5 years later, along comes my sister. She had my sister so fast that she knew she didn't want any more. I mean, fast as in they barely made it across the railroad tracks, and Aberdeen's not very big. And they got into the hospital, and my mom had her. That's how fast it was. So my dad would have had a dozen kids had my mom been willing, but she wasn't. Anyway, so we grew up in a very large family. I would say large in our family gatherings at the time. my grandmother's, let's see. On my mom's side of the family, there was 4 kids. On my dad's side of the family, there was 3 kids. Plus my adopted uncle. Well, on top of that, my grandparents, on my dad's side, had 11 and 13. On my mom's side, I think there was, 8 and 11. So you can see, I mean, the families were very, very large. I had a great aunt that was younger than my dad. So my great grandparents had their last daughter after my dad was born. So she's still alive, and younger than my dad. But we were very close. We usually had, I would say, between 25 to 50 people. I mean, it could have been more than that, especially in like a summer gathering. So, I mean, there's that. So I grew up with my first cousins being very, very close. And we did a lot of things together as a family. We had, my birthday is in July, so we would have a big, like a family reunion / birthday party / whatever. We would have rummage sales every year, and we would get to, it'd be at one person's house or the other, either my aunt's or our house. And I remember that my dad we would always have the record player out in the garage, and it would be playing whatever records he had at the time. But one of them was Helen Reddy. And a lot of my friends had no clue who this lady was. And I knew every word and song on this record, because it was played every time we had a rummage sale. It was played when we didn't have rummage sales. But music was always a big thing in our family. So, when I was younger, when I was 8 years old, or maybe even, I might have been younger than that. When I was 5, my grandfather had a barn raising. And before the barn was actually finished, he broke his arm, and he got that checked out. But he ended up having cancer. Cancer was from working at the NWPS, which was, I think, the electrical company, but they were responsible for removing asbestos from schools and other places. So he had lung cancer from asbestos. And, they checked my grandmother, and they checked other things, because she did all of his laundry and did all that kind of stuff, and it was on him when he came home. And I mean, they just didn't know back then. But anyway, we did the barn raising, and at that time I had just learned in kindergarten, it might have been kindergarten or first grade, but I just learned She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain. And I can't remember what other song I knew at the time, but they at the barn raising, they had the old time fiddlers, and they played on an old wash basin or old wash tub, and there was a string that came up, and then they had another guy play a saw with a fiddle bow, and you could move the saw and play the fiddle bow against it. I don't know how it works. But then they had a violin, and they had some other, I think a guitar and some other things. But they were playing songs, and she asked one of the ladies, such a sweet lady, I can picture her face in my head, but she asked me if I could sing, and of course I was like, yes. So she let me sing She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain in front of all of my family. in front of the whole entire group of people that were there. And it was the best experience. And from there, I actually got to sing with these people for a few other times. And both my dad and my grandparents were there, my mom, but my dad would take me to rehearsals. And, you know, as my grandfather got sick, my dad was out there more, trying to help, you know, but after he passed away, things changed, I guess. We moved a couple times, and stayed with my grandmother as much as, I mean, I guess a grandkid can. I'm not sure if it was for us or for her to keep her company. I remember sleeping in the same bed with her. You know, it's just, the kids do that. But, yeah. I think middle school and high school were different. I worked a lot, and Dad worked a lot. Dad always worked. In the summer, I mean, in the winter, it didn't matter what season it was. He worked the lumberyard, and it was not uncommon for him to work between 40 and 80 hours a week. I mean, if they needed him, he was there. He was a lot for a long time. He was the lumberyard manager. He was the outside manager. He took care of deliveries, and he hauled sheetrock and 2x4s and you name it, and he did it. He drove semi and ran the forklift and all that stuff. He would come home, and he would almost always have a beard. And there was a lot of times that he would come home and he would have icicles clear down to his, you know, neck and all over his beard and through his nose and just everything, right? There'd be some times where it was so cold, or he was so wet or frozen, that we would have to take off his boots. And I remember his boots because they were the eyelet boots. So you had to undo all of the eyelets that you strung the boots around just to get them off, and then you'd have to pull really hard because they were frozen and wet, or wet and frozen, or I don't know. Anyway, they were cold. So we would, as little kids, I just remember we'd have to like really, really pull on his boot to get him off. But so he was always a hard worker, always. Every year he would take off like a week. I think it was just a week, but he would take a vacation. Mom didn't get as much vacation as he did. He had been on his job for a very long time, but he would take a week and he would do all the laundry. He would catch up on all of the laundry and catch up on all of, you know, like matching socks and doing bedding and all that kind of stuff. And he would just continuously do it until it was done. But at the same time, he'd also bake cookies. He'd make monster cookies and do all like a whole bunch of baking. So that, I remember him being home at that time and doing all that stuff. Towards my high school years, the internet came around. And that was kind of I guess it was a tumultuous time, because I believe that he felt like he was getting ignored, and 100% he probably was. Actually, 100% he was, because if I wasn't on the computer, dial up, then my sister was, or my mom was. We met a lot of friends online. I had best friends in town that actually ran the dial-up company at the time. I mean, it was the first in South Dakota. It was the first in a lot of areas. and we were lucky enough to have a computer and to get it. So I've got my 2 rows. I've got, I'm going to do a long enough cord or long enough string to do my antennas on my bees and make a smile. And so I'll do that. But yeah, so he was ignored, and my mom and dad fought. There was some times when I really thought that they might get divorced when we were little, or when I was a teenager. A lot. I mean, there was times when I was very angry at my sister because she was doing stuff that would cause fights. And at the time, like, I don't know if you guys do this to your kids, but you know, there'd be times where you just wait until your dad gets home. You just wait until your dad gets home. Or, you know, if your dad finds out about this, you're going to be in big trouble, and that kind of a thing, you know. And I don't think it was meant in the way that it was taken. And I found out years later, you know, that he always thought that he was the bad guy, and he wasn't. And it was just that I think, I don't want to say afraid. Afraid's not the word. I respected him. I respected his opinion, and I respected the way that he worked. He was such a hard worker, and I just respect that he took care of our family, and, you know, was always there. So yeah. Anyway, he did tend to be looked at as the grumpy old guy, but he really wasn't. He was a teddy bear in a lot of ways. I graduated and met my oldest daughter's dad. We moved in together, and my parents, like, not even, I don't even know how many months later it was. Not very long. But they moved away. My sister, like I said, was getting in some trouble, and in order to take care of her, and they were done with Aberdeen. They had enough anyway. And so in order to take care of her, make sure she was safe and not in with this other stuff, they moved to Minnesota. Well, a few months later, I was pregnant. So we were living in an apartment. We struggled, and we eventually did get married, and that didn't last very long. And my parents were there to help me. My parents were there to help me when I had her. And they came down. They were 3 hours away by that time, 3 or 4 hours away. And my mom came and stayed with me in the hospital because we were we had come from Aberdeen to Sioux Falls, and so she stayed with me. And then they drove me all the way back home. Anyway, they were there for me. And then I got married again to another guy, and they were there for me when I got divorced from him also. I met Donnie, and, you know, twice bitten, or twice shy, twice whatever. And they were very cautious, and they just wanted to make sure that, you know, I was going to be okay, and I was well taken care of, and I was working, and he had a solid job. We met at karaoke, and they knew that, and, you know. Anyway, somewhere down the line, we got pregnant with Michael, and it was so funny. Mom said that Dad knew I was pregnant every time I was pregnant before she did. He always knew. I could never keep a secret from him. I could never lie to him. That was part of that respect thing. Like I just couldn't lie to him. I have this face that says you're lying, and he knew it. Like he'd call me out on my shit all the time. And anyway, we had Michael, and he watched Michael. He volunteered or whatever to babysit Michael. Well, then, because he had tried to get a job here in Sioux Falls, and nobody wanted him because he was old, which is bullshit, because he would have worked for them as hard as they wanted him to. But because of his age, nobody really wanted to hire him. He tried, but it didn't work. So anyway, I'm gonna embroider these eyes, I think. So when Michael was born, he watched Michael. But then I got pregnant with Jacob right away. They're only 14 months apart. I got pregnant with Jacob right away, and sometime between that, when I was pregnant, my dad's retinas detached. So I can't remember how old. Michael might have been 9 months old, maybe. So both retinas were detaching, and he couldn't watch him because he had to be down, face down. He was only allowed to get up to use the bathroom, and he only had like 10 minutes an hour that he could be upright. They had to put gas behind his retina, an optic nerve, I guess, so they would reattach. They did reattach. They had some. He did lose some sight, but I mean, for both retinas detaching, he did pretty good. So anyway, he was supposed to be Michael's babysitter, and then couldn't. So we tried daycare, and that did not work at all, not at all. So I started working nights, and Donnie worked the days because he had a full-time job, and I would just work multiple part-time jobs. I had multiple part-time jobs. So I was working 40 hours, but I was just working them at all hours in the night. So I worked the bingo hall, I worked a casino, I worked some other stuff. 5. I worked a grocery store. So I did that, and then I, through my entire pregnancy with Jacob, I was working. So I didn't have enough. Shoot. Okay. I don't have enough. But he would help wherever he could. So he would watch the kids after Jacob was born. He would help. But he couldn't do it full time. And my mom was working full time. So let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to fix this so I don't have to add another piece. We'll just have really short antennas. Fast forward a little bit, I guess, and we were pregnant with Daisy. Donnie's dad was sick. My oldest was having problems of her own. Oh, that's the big part. My parents moved to Sioux Falls. The same week that my oldest daughter's father had committed suicide. So we were moving them here. This is when I was married to my ex-husband. We were supposed to be moving them here that same week. He'd known about it, and so we did end up moving them, but it was, I mean, had they not had moved here, I don't know what I would have done. But anyway, they were here, and that's, it was just, from then on, Dad was essential. Like, I needed them in my life at that time, and God provided, and I can't even tell you how thankful I was that they were there. Because now I was dealing with a 9-year-old who had an 11-month-old sister. That was not mine. That was another lady's, and she had just lost her dad. So that was hard. But they were with me. They were there for me the whole entire time. Fast forward to us being pregnant with Daisy, and my oldest, now having gone through losing her dad, losing her grandmother, was, I don't know, I don't know the best word to tell you other than that she was suicidal. And not just once, not just twice, not just 3 times. It came down to, I was just had Daisy, and 2 days later, she was trying to do it while in school. And I had just got out of the hospital, and I'm getting a call from school. I have a brand new 48-year-old baby. And Donnie's dad at the time was very sick. And can't remember who else was sick. I think my grandmother was sick. I know there was 2 different people in the hospital at the same time. I think it was my grandma Barrett. I don't know. It's kind of fuzzy. It's all fuzzy. But I'm trying to remember. It's so hard to remember. You know, if you guys don't write this stuff down, and your brain just naturally forgets everything. But anyway, he was in the VA hospital and very sick, and I had 3 babies, 3 kids under the age of 3 and under, plus her, and it was to the point where her stepdad and I, or her other dad and I, we couldn't watch her all the time, and so she ended up having to be in LSS for a year. And part of that, you know, she did help me with the kids, but then there was other problems with that too. So Dad helped during that time after my father-in-law had passed, and he helped with the kids a lot. I mean, I don't know where we would be had he not been there for us. The year that my oldest graduated, she did get out for her senior year, and by the time she graduated, I was pregnant with Connor. He is my last. He was my last. At that time, again, I was still working nights. Dad was helping when he could. Mom was helping if she could get off. But then at the time, and this is kind of personal, and take it how it is, but Donnie was drinking, and then he wasn't. So during that time, and the kids don't know much about it, and I don't talk a lot about it, but there was a point in time where he was not responsive for 9 days. They had him in an induced coma to take care of all of the symptoms that comes with detoxing. And my parents, my dad was there every day. He was the reason I got to go up and see him and be with him. Had my dad not been there, I don't know what we would have done, but yeah, he was there. I lost my needle. But he was the reason I was able to go up to the hospital every day and to be with him and to make sure that, you know, they were taking care of him. I prayed every day just to hear his voice again because he was in a coma. I didn't know if he was going to wake up. But he did eventually, and we got that situated. And then he was gone for 2 months, 2.5 months. He was in Minnesota to get in a VA clinic. So my dad and my mom, for those 2.5 months of me raising 4 kids, my oldest had moved out by then. And 4 kids on my own. And it was very scary. But he was there every day. And we had, at that time, we had a big storm come through. And things were like frozen everywhere. And we had a whole bunch of snow. And then all of a sudden, all the snow and all the ice melted at once. Like we had a 100-degree drop. It went from like -30 to 40 degrees. And the garage was completely flooded. There was ice that was just in the garage. Like it was this thick and it was all melting. So he helped me at, break down all the ice and get it all out of the garage and move things around. And then the outside waterway, the drainage for the sewage outside was blocked and the water was backing up into our yard. So he helped me outside chop ice and and move the snow and get all that stuff out there at the time. So, and you know, it was just like an ongoing thing for like a week or two that he helped me with that and the kids. So I was still able to work during that time only because my parents were here. I can tell you right now that Donnie has been sober 7 years. Connor just turned 8, so he's been sober 7 years. And my dad always said, always, that he was so incredibly proud of him. So incredibly proud of him. And Donnie's side of the family doesn't really talk to us, and that's hard for my kids to understand. By this point, they don't ask questions as much anymore, but they used to, and we just tell them, not all families are, you know, they don't always talk, you know. But anyway, my dad was always so proud of him, and Donnie is a very hard worker, and he is very handy, and so he was just always so impressed about how much Don could do and what he was able to fix in our house. And you know, he built the kids' tree house, which there's a video on my YouTube channel about the tree house, and he built a double teeter-totter, and he really did do the whole entire basement pretty much by himself. But occasionally he would go over and help Dad. And towards the end, we would go and we would help Dad with, you know, like the lawn mowing and the different things like that. He did at one point in time get up on Dad's roof, and the ladder slipped, and Dad said he looked like Jesus, because he was like literally out with his hands like this, hanging from the ladder, and Dawn's hair at the time was super long. This was like during COVID. But he was trying to patch the spot on the roof or something. Anyway, he's like, oh my God, I don't know what I would have done if something would have happened to him, because I couldn't have taken care of your 4 kids by myself. But yeah, he was always very grateful that Donnie was the guy I chose. If you've been watching for a while, you know that my sister also was married, and they're the same age. It was so crazy that my Donnie and her ex-husband were the exact same age, and they both were drinkers. Dawn is the example of what happens when it turns out the right way, and my sister's ex-husband is what happens when it turns out the wrong way. We also lost him this last year, and he died of liver cirrhosis. So yeah, my sister is still, to this day, she also is very thankful for Dawn being in our lives. He's very nice to her. He helps her out when she can, when he can. So it's just, we're very blessed. But my dad didn't always look happy. Like I said before, he was always thought he looked like a grumpy old man, because he had that resting man face. But when he did smile, it was always a big smile. He really was a nice man. Even though he didn't get that reputation, he was. But he loved his grandkids. Absolutely loved his grandkids. And I think it was hard that he wasn't able to be more active with them. And towards the end, he was very sick and didn't have a lot of energy, and so that affected things. But he really did just love them to pieces. And of course, we named Michael after him, and so he knows that he's named after both of his grandfathers. I always wanted even when I was little, I wanted a son named Michael. That was my hopes and dreams and wishes, was to have a son named Michael, name it after my dad. I always thought that was the biggest honor I could, give him, and it really was special. And when he was little, we called him Mikey, because Dad was Mike, my dad was Mike, even though I prefer Michael. My dad was very much a Mike, but we called my son Mikey. And I can't even remember, it might have been kindergarten, but then all of a sudden Michael only wanted to be called Michael. He did not want to be called Mikey. And he was very, very particular that his name was Michael Darrell Gustafson, and that was his name. Oh, gotta love a kid with autism that is very, I don't know how to describe it, but he's very firm, on what he believes. And I think a big part of maybe the reason that Michael is so loving, he's able to show emotion even though that, you know, a lot of those kids don't. I'm very blessed in that portion that he does show emotion. Is I contribute that because of my dad. My dad absolutely doted on him when he was a baby, when he was little. Always just really, really loved being around him and took great care of him. So that's just, I'm almost positive that that's why he is the way he is today. But yeah, there's other little stories about him, and this is very long, and I appreciate you guys sitting here with me and remembering things, the good, the bad, the better. We were there might be a kid up downstairs. We were towards the end able to have our last Thanksgiving together. Everybody got together. We did have Christmas. That was a wonderful experience. It was very. I think he knew he was getting sicker. He was trying to do things. He was trying to eat the way he was supposed to, but at the end, everything had hot sauce on it. Everything had hot sauce on it. He put hot sauce on his apples. He put hot sauce on his anything you could think of, and that was the only way he would eat it because he couldn't have salt, so he would add hot sauce to everything. It just, yeah, it was crazy. My dad is also the reason that I'm trying to lose this weight and to get healthier, because he had liver cirrhosis that was non-alcohol. It was from a fatty liver. Basically, I am built just like him, except for my stomach. I don't have a stomach like he did, but my legs are built like his. We've got the lipedema, and I already have edema in my legs. And I did show when I was tested for long COVID, they tested my lungs and my heart and everything else. They did ultrasounds and CT scans and all that kind of thing. And they did find a fatty liver already. So after I heard what was going on with Dad, and after seeing how much he struggled, and then towards the end he just blew up like a balloon, and watching them take liters of fluid off of his lungs and his heart and out of his stomach, and grabbing his legs and having my hand sink into it. I wish that on nobody. I wish that visual on nobody. It was absolutely terrifying, and it scared me to death. And so I started on my journey with carnivore, and I think that is what got me through all of that. I had started it in 2024, so I had been on it for a while, and he was concerned that I wasn't, that it wasn't good for me, and all this other stuff, though he could see I was losing weight, and he was happy for me at that point, but he was concerned. And I had wished that I could have convinced him to just do protein, because he needed the protein. He needed that to, get stronger or get healthier. But the protein without the chips and the cookies and the popcorn and all the other crap that he would eat. But anyway, that he's a big part of the reason why I am doing my best to eat healthier, to pay attention to what my body is telling me, to just to want to be there for my kids because they are young and I am already middle-aged. So by the time that by the time my mom was 40, I was graduated from high school, out of high school already. So I'm 46 and I don't even have, I have one out of high school, but the other four, I'll be 56 before Connor's out of high school, I think is what I figured it. 56 years old. So another 10 years. And I want to be around for that. And so, yeah, he's a big reason. Scared me to death. Literally. But, anyway. I was trying to remember other things I could tell you about my dad. My dad and my mom were always joking around. They always were affectionate, or it appeared to be affectionate. My dad would always goose her, and they were the only couple out of all of my friends growing up that were still married. I had a set group of friends. There was like 8 of us, I suppose, but a lot of them got divorced, and even later in their marriages they got divorced. And so when my parents were still together all these years later, they celebrated 45 years of marriage. 44 years. Man, now I can't remember. 44 years, I think, because he passed away last year. Yeah. Anyway, they got married in 78. You guys can do the math. But that's a long time to be married to somebody. So, yeah. It's a big accomplishment, and they did fight, and they didn't get along, and towards the end they couldn't hear each other, which was hilarious and sad at the same time, because a lot of their fighting was because they couldn't hear each other, or they didn't understand that what they were trying to convey because they couldn't hear each other. And Mom worked up until almost the last year, so she actually retired a year prior, but that's because she broke her ulna, and that was when he got sick the first time. So he lasted a year, and it might have actually been a year, almost to the day, that he got sick the first time he went in. I think it was a year. So from the first time he went into the hospital to the day he came out, I'm pretty sure it was like a year. It was really crazy too, because he lasted 1 week to the hour, like the hour, 1 week to the hour of them telling him that his liver and kidneys were failing, which is crazy. But he was able to say goodbye to his sister, to my cousin Becky, my cousin Kim, my sister, my nieces, to Donnie and I, to my mom. So he did say his goodbyes, which was a blessing. And relatively, he did go fast. Once he knew, and I think he said his goodbyes, it did go very fast. So we are blessed, because they were going to move him to hospice, and then he just went. But anyway, my dad loved the Green Bay Packers. Absolutely loved and adored the Green Bay Packers. We watched every football game. He watched every football game. If he couldn't watch them, he was listening on the radio. They had their record player radio was still in their house, and they still listened to it. But always a Packers fan. He actually got to go to Lambeau and visit the stadium. He he was a Mark Martin fan. Mark Martin and Jimmy Johnson was mine, but Mark Martin fan, Green Bay Packer fan, Brett Favre fan, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he just absolutely loved them. He loved to draw. He would draw funny figures. He was a big jokester. Always trying to make my mom laugh every day. She said he would make her laugh. Even if she was having a bad day from work or whatever, would do his best to make her laugh. So I miss him, and I know my mom's going to struggle today. I'm going to struggle today. Part of that struggle is my oldest daughter is being induced today. I have not mentioned this. I don't talk much about her. I struggle a lot, and so does she, and our relationship is what it is. But she has since left her ex-husband, and she is alone and pregnant. It's not his, it's somebody else's. The father wants nothing to do with it, and there was a time when we thought maybe she would give it up for adoption. She's since changed her mind, and I'm okay with whatever decision she wants to make. But we are not in a position where we are super close, and that's just part of all of the life stuff that happened. But yeah, she's getting induced today, and I find that it's hard because today was the day that Dad passed. So, I mean, whatever happens will happen. It's just really hard for me, because I want that grandbaby to be safe and healthy, and whatever day he decides to come is fine. It's just hard. It's hard. My mom is having a hard time. She wasn't sure if she was going to get out of bed today or what she would do, and she feels bad because she's like, well, I'm having a pity party for myself, and it's not a pity party. It's grief. And she's allowed to have all those tears and all those feelings. So I don't want her to have to wait longer, because she's been just dying with wait. But I'm hoping that little boy takes just a little bit longer. One more day. Make it the 18th and not the 17th. But that's the selfish part in me. Because I want that little baby to have his own day. I'm sorry, I shouldn't wipe my nose. I'm sorry. I want him to have his own day, and for us not to think about my dad on the same day. I know a lot of people deal with that where they have a loved one pass and there's somebody else born on that same day. It's really hard. So even though we're not the closest, I love her. I always will, always have, but I will do whatever I can to help out. And if she wants me to help out, I will do that. But I also have to guard my heart and guard that part that is still just deals with a lot of trauma from those years. So it's just hard. But maybe this will help heal that. Maybe it'll change how things are. I don't know. But anyway. So today's a hard day. And for those of you out there that struggle with losing somebody or loving family from afar, not having the closest relationship with people that you feel like you should, I give you permission to feel okay with that. Because I'm a firm believer that God puts people in your life for a reason and takes them out in the same way. They don't have to be in there for a good reason. They don't have to be in there for a bad reason. He just puts them in your life for a lesson, for an experience, for wisdom. And part of that wisdom might be hurt and pain and learning and trying to deal or I was always so angry when her dad passed because he left her alone. I mean, he left her, you know, and my dad has always been so important to me. And I can't imagine being that little girl and having your daddy leave voluntarily her. So even though I was so angry at him and how it affected her and how it still affects her and her relationships and how she acts, and I was so grateful that at the same time as God took him, my parents were in my life. My parents were there to help me. My dad was there to help me. It's so crazy. So, as a year goes by, we lost a lot of people this year, and it's been a very challenging year. I haven't been able to work other than the craft fairs, which you know, a lot of that was to keep Mom busy, to keep us both busy, really. But I went from having my reseller income to just crocheting for a few markets, and that has affected me, and it's affected my family and my mindset and the stress and all this other stuff. And so if you see a lot more out of me as far as working and doing things, I mean, that's why, because I really need to get stuff going again. And yeah, it's just but every time I try to go back to work, something comes up. Yeah. Part of me says that I just need to not worry about it. It'll happen when it happens. But I spend all of my days, you know, taking care of kids and the house and trying to stay upright myself, you know, as far as with my health and things. That it's been hard, but I know it'll come. So anyway, I might edit some of this out, but I hear somebody. If you guys have lost somebody this year and you're struggling, or if you have health issues and you're struggling, I'm here. I will listen. You can email me, you can message me on Instagram or on Facebook, and I'd be happy to talk to you. But it is a struggle, and a lot of times I don't sleep very well. And it's just, it's because of all this stuff is just going constantly through my head. Anyway, hopefully this year will be better, and Mom and I will get through today and tomorrow and the week after, and hopefully just the time itself gets better. I know they say time heals all things, but I can tell you from experience of a mom with a little 9-year-old who lost her dad, that it doesn't always fix things. Time moves on and time changes things, but it doesn't always fix things. So here's to hoping that between my mom, my sister, Donnie, and I, that we can keep each other all elevated and moving forward in the most positive way we can for my kids, for her kids, for my grandkid, or kids, however many there may be. That hopefully we can just be good examples for them and carry on every day as healthy as we can be and as happy as we can be. So, all right, I will let you go. If you guys are still watching, put a B in the comments. I know it's a really long video, but I appreciate you being here with me. And I appreciate all of your support and watching my videos and commenting, and it really does mean the world.